Hello and welcome to week 13 in cultural anthropology, and in this week we're going to be exploring health and medicine, chapter 17. Now the discussion and the quiz I see as kind of two sides of the coin that I want to look at in terms of this. Now in my background, I worked primarily in clinical mental health, and mental health in particular has interesting cultural ramifications to it and interesting diversity across the world. Even though we may be experienced with depression, schizophrenia, anxiety, those kind of things, and those symptomologies may be universal, the cultural interpretation of what those mean is very diverse. In addition to that, there are some behavior patterns that are considered abnormal in some cultures because of the cultural perspective on that particular behavior. Those symptomologies, those groups of symptomologies, seem to only appear within particular cultural backgrounds. Very interesting stuff. So the discussion is focused on how does our culture view mental illness? When somebody tells us we have a mental illness, how do we react to that? How do we do that? Now that's changed over time, and certainly we're glad that we've moved away mostly from evil spirits or somebody's done something bad and this is the punishment from God. But we're still far from maybe where we want to be in terms of full understanding of what mental illness is. How do people get treated? Part of the cultural perspective is the rhetoric. What do we say about people with mental illness? And then there's what do we do about persons with mental illness? How does that actually manifest? Getting some discussion of stigma. The idea that our society does not view positively the effect of mental illness. And I don't only mean it in terms of pain and suffering for the individual, but we fear it, we misunderstand it, we make assumptions in the media about what it is to have a mental illness. It all goes downhill from there. And in other cultures that you'll be looking at in the textbook, how they view mental illness. The second one is to look up what they call culture-bound mental illnesses or culture-bound conditions. And these are specific mental illnesses that appear within specific cultural populations. Now, my favorite one to talk about in this is, I'm from Northern Maine. There's a very large French-Canadian community up there. And within the French-Canadian community, there is a condition, and it's real, called the jumping Frenchman's disease. And what it is, it's an exaggerated startle reflex. And there was a person who was in my class when I was a mean kid. Me and my friends used to get her to jump during class. So it really didn't take a whole lot. Now, I'm not proud of this, but I'm telling you it so I know, that you understand that this is real. She could be across the room, and me and Brian would sit there. We're in the back of the class, raising hell, and we would catch her eye, and and she knew what was coming, and we would just be like looking at her like in not in like a threatening way, but like it's coming, and it, and she's just like shaking her head, and then we would just go like that, and she would scream out loud in the class. It's of course extremely funny for a 14-year-old. I have since apologized to Lisa. The first time we had a class reunion, I was like, really sorry about that. But she really did have it. It was very in her way. Sometimes she would be, when the bell rang out, there was always an additional yell that went along with that when Lisa heard the bell, and it got in the way. It was a serious condition for her. She has since recovered, and she does well in life, and all is well, and she did forgive me, I think. But that's an example of that particular condition being specific to that multi-generational population where that condition was first identified, jumping Frenchman's disease. So go find one. Go find another one. Look up cultural bound conditions, cultural bound mental illness, all kinds of them out there. And the quiz is for you to report out on that. So have a great week. I'll see you in the discussions. Take good care. Get outside. It's becoming really nice and beautiful. And we're in the run here. We're on that final turn on the of the semester. So end nice and strong. And I will see you in the discussions.